There's a video that I must find. Graduation in my secondary school. They were asking everybody, where do you want to go? Some said, oh, I'm going to Ghana. I want to go to this school. I want to go to that school. Some said, I'm going to London. I'm going to this. I said, I'm only going to benefit from education there. Once I'm done, I must come back home.
Which country is that?
US.
Okay.
So I went to George Washington University in DC and studied finance. And as soon as I was done, whilst we had opportunities, looking for jobs, getting nice internships, I was of the opinion that I was not going to work a day extra in America. So I finished December about 14th. By December 16th, I was boarded on a flight back to Nigeria.
2 days after?
Yes. Came back, went through the Christmas break, and very early in January, I showed up at 2 investment banks for interviews. One of them was AfriInvest Investment Bank in Lagos. What is an investment bank for? I guess for those who may not know. If, for example, GT Bank or UBA wants to go and raise money, 100 million, 100 billion naira, 50 billion naira, they need people who will advise them on how to go about it, show them the regulatory processes and things like that, and then help them raise that money for a fee. That was our job. So coming into there, I worked there, got in at 21. And in fact, my first boss, when he was interviewing me, he said, interviewed a few people. He said, okay, I will take you. Of average intelligence. I said, "Ay, Chineke." But he didn't know what he did by making that statement. As soon as I got that job, I think our pay was 47,000 every month. We were coppers. I told myself, this man is going to regret this thing he just said. Completely. And I'm going to show him that I'm probably will be the hardest working person in this company. On average, you come in 8 o'clock in the morning. Most people leave around 6 or 7. The remainder 10% of the workforce live around, I would say 9, 10 in the evening. So I was there, my first day on the job. Went through, first batch of people left around 5. Second batch left around 8. And the last batch left at 10. We're leaving at 10. And I saw a young guy called Maiwa who everyone seemed to revolve around him. I said, I need to know everything you know. He said, no, you can't. I've been here for 3 years, 4 years. I said, I need to know everything you know in 1 month. He said, you are a lunatic.
Is that drug?
He said, you're a lunatic. And I appealed to him because his house was all the way in the border of Ogun State and Lagos. I gave him a room in my own apartment, closer to the office, so that me and him could be at the office till 1 a.m., till 2 a.m., working overnight, so that we can go home together. He stayed night in my house, then we'll come back again in the morning. So I learned a lot. My 1 year there must have been like 3-4 years anywhere else. Because for 1 year, every week, out of 5 working days, I was sleeping in the office 4 out of 5. Sleeping. I walk from 7:30 in the morning till about 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Then I get about 1 hour, 2 hours of sleep on the MD's couch. And then I rush home to shower, and I'm back at 7:30 to read newspapers and drink a cup of coffee. By 8:30, I open my laptop and start working.
Active.
That was my first year, and it now extended, and that was my first 4.5 years at that company. I quit at that company 2 times. The first time I quit, I was being paid just about, I think that time after my copper year, all the other guys we finished with, they retained 2 of them, but they retained me and gave me a double promotion above them. So I was almost earning double them. So we kept working. At some point, my brother, I just felt as much as they're paying me well compared to my peers, there were other organizations that were paying better. And I felt like I was working harder than the people at those organizations. So I quit. And my MD said, "What?" I said, "I quit. I don't feel I'm valued." So he engaged me as we spoke again.
What can we do?
What can we do? How do we cut this deal? So he now said, "You know what? You're going to come back into investment banking. But to justify how to pay you more, I'm going to make you the executive assistant to the MD to manage all the documents that go to the board." And that was how he was now probably paying me 3 or 4 times the people I had come in with a few years back. Second time, came back this time, this stock market had crashed. We were now looking for where we would make more money from as a company. So everybody now started running to state governments. State governments were going to the capital markets, raising money. So that again brought me closer to government. We worked in those governments. We started supporting Edo State. I think we supported Enugu State. We supported Lagos State. I was on about 8 government projects, right? And at probably about 23 then, or so, 23. So I started getting this excitement for government, understanding the accounts of government. And I woke up one day and I decided to write to a certain person who was running for Anambra State governor in 2010. I wrote to him in 2009. That man is the governor of Anambra State today. I said, "Your Excellency, I admire you. I love your antecedents in central bank. You've really put the Africa on the map. And I would love to come and serve you in any capacity." He says he never got the letter. I never got a response. But I happened to have listened to him at Oriental in 2009, where he created the concept African Dubai Taiwan. I was the youngest in that room, at the back, listening to Odenigbo. But it just so happened, I felt it was my time, but God felt we needed more time. Second thing happened. The Jonathan administration started. 2011, when the likes of Okonjo-Iweala and co were coming in. Again, a young man who was so energetic. I wrote again. This time, I wrote to 42 ministers. Said, "I'm a young man. This is my experience. These are the things that I feel like I'll add so much value to your ministries. Please give me an opportunity in any capacity to just come." 42 ministers. Not one response. Done. Said, "No problem." So there was this one day. We had to a former governor who had just finished, right? He had these ideas on how to do a project somewhere in the southwest. So he came to our company and asked us for support to help in packaging it. He was quite a young man as governor, former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke. So I felt that since I was one of the people in that company that had government experience, but this time it wasn't government, so they didn't want me to be on that project. So I pleaded that I just wanted to come for the first meeting. Even if it was just to sit there, if I had only 1 or 2 presentation slides, let me make a presentation and stay quiet. The MD said, "That's fine, go." That night, I remembered a book I read on how Ojukwu used to prepare for speeches. That he would look in the mirror and recite that speech like, I think he said 200 times, and then come and deliver it. I took my presentation slides and I recited it more than 100 times in the mirror. I said, I must make an impression. This is the person I know that is closest to power. This person must find me impressive. And I did that. The meeting started the next day. My bosses presented. Then they said, oh, we'll hand over to Mark to do the last part of the presentation. I did 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. What I had rehearsed, I delivered. And he said, thank you. And he told the 3 of us, I'll see you later. And as we were walking out of his office, I said, Kai, I didn't impress this man. He now said, young man. Everybody looked back. Because we were all relatively young.
Yes.
He said, no, not the 2 of you. That's one. the youngest, come. They said, but Mark came with us. So there's no way of getting him back to the office. He said, no, that's not a problem. We'll get him back. But I want to have a chat with him. As soon as I walked back, before I even took a seat, and before he even uttered a word, I said, Your Excellency, with all due respect, I've been preparing for this moment. I've written letters to multiple ministers, to multiple governorship aspirants. I just want to understand government. I want to understand development. And I'm appealing to you to please take me as your mentee. He said, well, I have no other choice. You've already made that case. And remember, he was an ex-governor by that time. So there's a little bit more time. So typically, that relationship started, and every day, probably back then, after work, you go back, 1 a.m., you come, ask 1 or 2 questions, as the case may be. So this one day, he said, what state are you from? I'll introduce you. And then he says, come with me, and introduces me to the then governor of Anambra State, right? Governor Obi. And it happened. He says, hello, hi, how you doing? Then he was walking away. I said, Destiny can't walk away anymore. She said, with all due respect, Your Excellency, I have my CV in my pocket. I've waited a lifetime for this moment. I need to be hired. He looked at it, okay, no problem. And that was it. For 3 months, I didn't hear anything. Hundreds of calls, nothing.
He gave you his number?
Yeah, as usual. And I made calls. But until one day, I just decided, I said, I'll resign. And resigned from Lagos and moved to Anambra. I spent 2 weeks on the streets of Anambra, searching for that opportunity. Started off with Government House here. Go stay at Old English. From Old English, go to Government House. Sit outside with the mobile policemen. Gist with them. Say, when does the governor come to work? They said, no, he's coming. We'll spend the whole day there. At a point, we became very good friends. I'll buy them London dry gin. Buy them unripe plantain with roasted fish. We started talking, gisting. After 3 days, they said, Bia, okay, governor does not walk out of here. He walks out of Amobia. I said, how do I get to Amobia? They said, no, just enter any keke and fire on. We fired on. Mind you, the job I left at that point, having started at 48,000 naira. When I left that job, I was earning 875,000 naira.
A month?
In 2012. And annually, after they do something called pay for performance, pay for how hard you've worked, I was getting paid another 12 to 15 million annually. 2012.
Separately from your salary?
Separately. It's called a bonus, pay for performance. But my view is that money was not necessarily a motivation at that point. Because as a young man, we had hustled and seen it. And it was just like, we're working, then you make more money, you work harder, you make more money. At that point, I started searching for a deeper meaning of why I and human beings come to earth. So, seeing this opportunity, I said I was going to do everything I could to get into government. So finished, we enter Amobia. From Amobia, we'll sit at the gate. That one was more brutal because that's where the governor stays.
Go.
So you cannot come there and say you're in Keke and you're here to see governor. You want to spray your legs. So we started the whole process again. Appealing, telling them he told me to come, telling all sorts of many white lies here and there. Cut the long story short, we were outside there for maybe another week and 3 days, calling and calling and calling, until one day we got the number from the PA, called her, appealed to her. She said, but your name is not on the manifest. I said, it is. I don't know why it's not. But the governor called me yesterday and we spoke for 10 minutes. He said, see you tomorrow, Mark. I said, are you sure? It doesn't sound like Governor Obi. I said, yes, it does. It's him. She said, okay. Next thing, all the gates started opening.
A moving man would always meet his luck. So far, your emotion.
You know, opening. It felt, as a young man who had been chasing this opportunity, whether at federal or wherever, to come in as it just felt like, I'll be honest with you, it felt like the gates of heaven were opening. First gate, second gate, third gate, control room, entered. I just continued to, oh, Your Excellency, I want to do this. There's so many ideas. We can raise money. We can do this. We can do that. There's nothing I didn't say. Eventually, I was handed a letter. And that letter says, you are hereby appointed Senior Special Assistant on Investments. And the journey started. We took that job and worked so hard. I was living somewhere around, not too far from here. And the same culture of the private sector is what I was doing in government. I left the government office 1 a.m., 1:30, back again by 7:30.
I knew I knew you later also worked for the next governor, which is Willie Obiano. But before we get to that, it's an interview. So let me take you back a little small, because sometimes I invite a guest. We want to learn from their story.
Good news! From anywhere you are in the world, you can now be our guest on BAM. As long as you have an internet connection and a mobile device, you can now be interviewed from our studio anywhere in the world. Contact the numbers on your screen to book a session with us.